How is this not fascism? That's the reason for the title. This is American fascism right here. This is what Ajamu Baraka means. I forget the late great editor of the Black Agenda Report, Glenn Ford, used to always say the Democratic Party is the more effective evil. And we're seeing that right here. And they're trying to pretend like this is not political. This is all political. But you saw in that Rachel Maddow, it slipped out. The liar, the court-appointed liar right here, it slipped out. Yeah. And then Lawrence O'Donnell had to reel it back in. Hold on, Rachel. We're in front of cameras.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
We're in front of cameras. Hold on.
and people on Twitter was like, what is wrong with Rachel? It's unbelievable she said the quiet part out loud. And if you guys think that CJ is being all dramatic, he absolutely not. Look at how the United States treat people who they consider their adversaries. So Nicolas Maduro, the United States called him a tyrant, authoritarian thug, because he, quote unquote, went after his opposition. What did his opposition do, you ask? I don't know. His opposition only colluded with foreign powers in order to assassinate the president. You know Bolsonaro? Bolsonaro sent military hit squads into Venezuela, and the opposition party helped them. They colluded with death squads that went to kill Nicolas Maduro and his supporters. So, of course, when Nicolas Maduro government said, okay, that's illegal, you guys are going to prison, guess what the United States did? They said Nicolas Maduro is prosecuting his political enemies. Yeah, Bernie Sanders. Remember, Bernie Sanders said that Nicolas Maduro is a tyrant and a thug. Why? Why do people call Nicolas Maduro a tyrant and a thug? For financial mishandling? Because that's what a lot of people say. He's a failed leader who mishandled his economy. How dare Nicolas Maduro not have the ability to maneuver past the Western government sanctioning his country? The Bank of England stole billions of dollars of their gold, but how dare he not able to manufacture and maneuver around that? So there's that criticism. Then there's the criticism that he's an authoritarian tyrant. That only comes from the liberals criticizing how he treats his opposition. The same opposition who collude with foreign powers. Now, compare that to how they treat Donald Trump. They are trying to ban him from running and throwing him in prison for a mishandling of documents, a white-collar crime that they all do. Way less significant than what Nicolas Maduro opposition was trying to do to him. But Nicolas Maduro is called thug for that.
What I think about this, Nick, is that they can't, they want working class people to care about these white collar corporate like sort of crimes, and we don't, and we shouldn't care about this. This is really just public ruling class infighting, and they're just trying to joust each other and jab at each other and see who can win the election. That's all, and we shouldn't get all emotionally involved in these cases one way or the other. It really is irrelevant whether he's guilty. Of course he is. Just like Joe Biden, just like Hillary Clinton, they're all guilty. And that is the point. But they want us to be upset and criminalize a specific niche behavior that only this particular criminal is doing and get us to buy into it. And I'm just not going to be doing that. Go ahead.
Imagine being a worker and being invested in capitalist infighting. So these stories are always hilarious to me because I take advantage of capitalist infighting to point out contradictions, just like I just did. So this story I just used to point out U.S. hypocrisy regarding Venezuela. So it has a narrative benefit for me. Can you imagine being people like TYT, shitheads, status quo shitheads, people who are actually invested in red, blue capitalist infighting, which this is? That's literally what this is. This is nothing more than laughing at their infighting, taking advantage of their divisions, correct? But we shouldn't be that invested in this. We need to, at the end, they focus on calling out the contradiction of the ruling class and organizing ourselves. But we can use these stories to point out how both parties are full of shit, how Democrats are implementing the fascism that they claim they are fighting. That if they call Nicolas Maduro a thug and a tyrant, you must call all the Democrats that are going after Donald Trump. because it's the same concept, the
That's
same
the
belief.
same
What's up
concept.
with the hate? It's weaponized hypocrisy. Remember, weaponized hypocrisy is what? One of the highest forms of corruption. So now I'm gonna show you this video from my brother, my good friend Nico House, because he commented on
Let's
this.
see.
I want to get. I saw this earlier today.
I don't think I've seen it yet.
So I actually want to get your reaction. Nico puts out these great videos.
That's right. Biden is under investigation for mishandling classified documents too. But you probably didn't know about it because the media hasn't talked about it. Now, at first glance, when you hear about classified documents, you probably think I'm talking about Donald Trump because they ran up in his Mar-a-Lago home and wouldn't shut up about it in the mainstream media for weeks. But with Biden, not only have you not heard about it, but he hasn't been indicted. In fact, he hasn't even been interviewed about the way he's mishandled classified documents. But it gets even deeper because the entire situation with Trump may have been politically motivated like we all thought it was, because a special order revealed that Biden might have been directly involved in the Trump raid. Gasp! And this tweet perfectly outlines the problem. Too many people want to believe that Trump is uniquely corrupt and Biden is not as corrupt, except for Biden is currently the president and his Justice Department is pursuing his issue completely and totally differently than they're pursuing the exact same issue of a former president who also happens to be Biden's political competition. So as an independent, my question for Democrats is, if Trump was doing this to Biden, what would y'all have to say about it?
And there are a ton of liberals that are upset that people are calling out this blatant hypocrisy. We have standards. We have standards like this. Everyone who's not a blue, vote blue, no matter who shit live, or understand this contradiction. So I'm gonna show you this tweet here. Everyone who's a Democrat knows that it's obvious to everyone who's not part of the team that this is a political hit job, but that this is a way to go after the political opponent. That's obvious because everyone in the ruling class is guilty of what Trump has been doing. So look at how they've been responding to this basic fact, CJ, of people like RBN, Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, and many of our friends, the Convo Couch, and many others, calling out this bullshit. Look at this. He said, this guy, Shant, this Democrat guy, said, the job of the online left journal intellectual influencer nerd is to provide a steady stream of talking points that appear principled and extremely independent of the party, while coincidentally managing to completely align with the interests of the party at any time. So what he's saying is, in an initial tweet, he said, I have so much more respect for the average liberal who is openly celebrating the indictment of a political enemy over the corny leftist influencer who all of a sudden who wants to have an intellectual conversation about the importance of prosecuting politicians for their crimes. So this guy is upset at people like us, people like Glenn, who calls out the weaponization of the government no matter who does it. He said, I respect the partisans. I respect the people who don't give a fuck about principles. That's literally how broken brained a lot of these people are. So this is
that's the anti-woke, anti-intellectualism that's going on. Anti-woke. That's literally what anti-woke. You're literally saying you don't want to be conscious to what's going on.
This is really the mindset of the liberal class. They're like, yeah, we are hypocrites, but if it does not help if it helps our cause to defeat Republicans, the end justify the means. And they view people like us who stands on principle, who wanted to call out both sides for their hypocrisy. They view us with a extreme amount of disdain. This is the cowbell left that our brothers that do dissidents expose. And Keenan brings up a great point where he said, you guys want to take over the Democratic Party. You guys have way too much respect for their diehard voters. Like, I'm talking about the people who shows up for Amy Klobuchar. Who's the person who actually put weight behind Jim Clyburn's endorsement? Like, who was these people that was 30% militantly against Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Party? These are the shit libs that are culturally for the Democratic Party. They're not being tricked. They're not being conned. Right. They will ride or die support the Democratic Party. They don't care how bad it looks because they understand it's class warfare. I told you guys on the campaign trail, I had better conversation with the redneck conservative in South Carolina than I did the Amy Klobuchar supporting liberal, the Pete Buttigieg supporting liberal, because they understand their class dynamics more than anybody, and they act on that. But CJ, anything else you want to add? And
I do. Excuse me. I do want to add a couple of things here. This headline here, I posted it. Let me see. I'm sorry. I said post. The right word is tweeted, right? Tweet. I tweeted it out. This is it here. And this headline comes from World Socialist website. The Trump indictment and the national security secrets of the state. I do want to read a couple of excerpts, but the first one I want to read is this one I posted along with that headline. Look at this here. It reads, this is a quote from the article, a significant section of the state apparatus clearly hopes that the indictment will contribute to driving Trump out of politics. This effort is motivated in particular by Trump's stated position on the Ukraine NATO war against Russia over Ukraine, end quote. Now, I want to insert this particular part. Now, they may know he's not really going to do it, but there's certain things for the ruling class, for the Morning Joe sort of politics, you just don't say in polite company. You don't say that in public company for the peasants to hear. There's just certain things you don't do, and they believe this is one of them. So I've thought that when he came out against the Ukraine thing, I said, oh, they're going to turn shit up on this guy. They're going to turn it up because they cannot have this particular viewpoint being mainstream throughout many different debates. How many times are they going to talk about Ukraine? The main thing they have to talk about it. They have to get Ron DeSantis. Nick, have you noticed the cheerleading? CNN, Morning Joe, they're literally cheerleading for Ron DeSantis. You're making this mistake, man. Come on, you got to do this. Bring it to him. They literally want Ron DeSantis in because after he has backtracked on what he said about Ukraine, they'll take him over Donald Trump because they just simply do not trust Donald Trump. And I'm going to go to the particular article here and read it. And it reads along the same lines, Nick. If you remember the article, I think it was something like Trump Witch Hunt, and it was written by Margaret Kimberly. We covered it from the first case that would just happen like a couple of weeks ago or months ago or something like that. We talked about that, but it kind of mimics along those lines. But I do want to read this because it involves the Espionage Act too, which is ridiculous. Is absolutely absurd. But anytime for us, what do we say? I don't know the exact phrasing used. Anytime you see in the Espionage Act being included, you can guarantee that's some bullshit that's going on.
Yeah, I'm glad he brought that up. You can guarantee.
Yeah, you can guarantee it's some bullshit going on.
And you know, there's a coordinated effort, and that's why they want to get Trump on the Espionage Act, because they want people to accept the precedent, accept the use of the Patriot Act, and they're using Donald Trump as a way to kind of rehabilitate. I'm sorry, not the Patriot, but the Espionage Act.
Espionage Act.
And they're using Donald Trump as a way to rehabilitate the Espionage Act, to normalize it among public. So they don't want Julian Assange to be the only person that they got with the Espionage Act recently. Yeah. They were like, oh, we got Donald Trump with the Espionage Act, so are you a Trumper now if you speak out against the Espionage Act? And they wanted to be already established precedent. We need to completely reject all uses of the Espionage Act, 100%. And I see liberals celebrating this. I saw some liberals, I think I did a breakdown of them before, where they said, they'll celebrate, they're like, if you violate the Espionage Act, that is punishable by death. And they was laughing at it.
What? They're laughing?
They was like, see, we can get Trump because he violated the Espionage Act. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nod, nod. That's prosecutable and that's punishable by death. So I'm like, you guys want the U.S. government to have the power to just execute people they view guilty of the Espionage Act? That's why the modern liberal in the Democratic Party is the larger supporter of fascism in terms of not just overseas with the Zionist movement and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine, but what the domestic policies they're implementing with the Capitol Police giving them spying powers and the federal government use of the Espionage Act. And there are liberal journalists like the guy I showed you before who have nothing but disdain towards leftists like us who are calling out liberal government power overreach. But you can continue, CJ.
Absolutely. The indictment of Donald Trump under the Espionage Act and for conspiring to withhold information from federal prosecutors both exposes and accelerates an unprecedented political crisis within the United States. This, like, we're so far. This is such an indication of how this shit is so collapsing, Nick. This is so collapsing right before our eyes. This is so unprecedented that a former president, a candidate running, is being charged with an espionage. This is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. But it's informative of what's happening right now. Let me continue. The indictment of a former president for, quote, endangering national security, end quote, is itself extraordinary. The first time that the Justice Department has taken such an action. But Trump is not only a former president, he is the leading candidate of the Republican Party in the 2024 elections. The indictment will dominate American politics for at least a year, involving all the institutions of government, from the Supreme Court to Congress and the states. Let me pause there. This is the game, though they're not playing here. The way that they're going at them through this particular Espionage Act. Now you have governmental agencies, and you see what they will bring down upon you if they don't want you around, Nick. You see what they will do under the cloak of justice. It's just truly astonishing to me as a person who has kind of reads about history. This is freaking astonishing to me that they're doing this to him. Even going this far, I must say I'm a little shocked. Let's continue. How the election will even proceed under these circumstances is unclear. Involved in the decision to indict Trump is far more than the individual deliberations of Special Counsel Jack Smith, who was appointed by U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland to head investigation into Trump last November, and the 23 members of the grand jury in South Florida. As the 2024 elections approach, a significant section of the state apparatus clearly hopes that the indictment will contribute to driving Trump out of politics. This effort is motivated in particular by Trump's stated position on the U.S.-NATO war against Russia. It is critical. This is the part I need people to really zone in on. It is critical for the working class to have a clear understanding of the implications and driving forces of the conflict. There is no democratic content to the indictment of Trump based on the Espionage Act, a reactionary law that has been used against Eugene Debs, the Rosenbergs, Daniel Ellsberg, Julian Assange, and Edward Snowden. While the fantastical, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that wrong, arch-imperialist Trump is no opponent of the war machine, workers have no interest in safeguarding the secrets of the ruling class and its state. And that was the point that I was trying to make earlier. This ain't none of our business. Like, this is really just ruling class infighting. And I'll end it there and kind of put a button on this particular segment. This is fascism. The Democratic Party is the party that is blatantly and publicly showing the most signs of fascism with their censorship over things like COVID, over other things, the Twitter files, and then you have this type of stuff where they're literally going at it, using the governmental apparatus, both state and federal, to go after this person who clearly has committed crimes. This is not about guilt or innocence. This is about going after and jailing your political opponents when you are a criminal yourself. Any last words, Nick?
I think both parties believe in this stuff, this fascism. But what did Glenn Ford said? What party is the most effective at implementing it? So when we say the Democratic Party is the party implementing fascism, not that the Republicans don't. Not that Republicans aren't. They don't want to spend ICE. They don't want to spend the military-industrial complex. They don't want to spend all these government overreach processes, but they're not able to as much as Democrats. Joe Biden come in, they're like, man, we don't fund ICE more than Trump easily. Trump and them confused, like, what's the opposition at? LC crying, Biden like, bro, I'm a gangster. It's like, I can do this. We do this stuff. And this understanding that the Democratic Party is not only are they not the lesser of two evil, but they are the most efficient. They are the head. They are the captain of the establishment. And most of the time, the Republicans, like the doofus, second in command. Whenever the Republicans overreach, whenever you get unpopular, then you got the captain step in. Bill Clinton, for example. Yeah, Ronald Reagan. He's the doofus. He's out there first, right? Then Bill Clinton stepped aside after Ronald Reagan and his political cronies expanded political capital, and he did everything that Ronald Reagan couldn't do. Privatize
Wall Street. Think about that, Nate.
Go ahead.
Think about that. The presidents. Just think about just the last few presidents. Barack Obama instituted a tax break for the billionaires that the Republicans could never get through. That's Barack Obama. And then the previous Democrat president from that was what? Bill Clinton. You know how many bad legislation we have to really one time do a show on Bill Clinton. He is by far, legislation-wise, has got so much damage
I just talk about
country. Go ahead. Yeah, that's Bill Clinton. And then you go back. It's just, I'm telling you, the Republicans are flat. They're bad. They're dangerous. And then you go, let's go with this lesser of two. And then they roll out the worst policies than the Republicans were talking about. But go ahead.
And this realization is why we advocate for third parties. Now, I'm a Marxist. I believe in having a Marxist, socialist third party and foundations based on that.